Alright guys, so we are continuing our study of solving linear equations, except now instead of just giving the equation and solving for x, we're going to build that into a word problem. And so the first thing we're going to have to do is take the words, convert them to math like we did in the last section, convert the words to a math equation, and then from there I will solve for x. So these are going to look similar to like we did in the last section, except now I'm going to have an equal sign involved. So you're going to see words like is equal to, or is the same thing as, or even just the word is. All of those are going to imply equal. And so we have different types of problems. The first one is going to be the board problem, very similar to the one we saw in the last section. Here's kind of your overview of your plan for solving word problems. The big thing is that you have to get an equation set up, which is the most difficult part in word problems. It's why students hate word problems so much. So here's our board problem. A 10-foot board is cut into 3 pieces. So I've got a picture. Here's my board, and we're cut into 3 pieces. And so I do know that this thing is 10 foot total. A 10-foot board is cut into 3 pieces equally. The last piece is 9 inches shorter than the other 2. How long are each of the 3 pieces? And so the first thing I have is that the total piece 1 plus piece 2 plus piece 3 has to equal 10 foot, because I have the 3 boards that were all cut from the same 10-foot board. And then there's a catch in this problem. It says there is a 10-foot board. The last piece is 9 inches. And so be very careful with your units. Those units do have to match. And so the first thing I'm going to do is convert 10 feet into inches. So to convert feet to inches, I'm going to multiply by 12. And so 10 foot is 120 inches. And that's what I'm going to use here for my total, so that all of those units now match. And so I've got the first piece plus the second piece plus the third piece all has to equal 120 inches or 10 feet. Now let's go back to this second sentence. So the first part of the second sentence says 2 pieces are cut equally. Okay, so that will be this piece based on my picture and this piece. So 2 of those boards are cut the same. The last piece, so the next part, the last piece is 9 inches shorter than the other 2. So this piece here in the middle is 9 inches shorter than the first 2 pieces. Oops. So 9 inches shorter is going to mean minus 9. Well, what minus 9? The length of these 2. And since I don't know the lengths, I'm going to call them both x. And they're both x because it said they were cut equally. And so that middle piece is then going to be x minus 9, because that middle piece, or the last piece, is 9 inches shorter than the other 2. And then it says, how long are each of the pieces? Well, because they were all cut from the same board, I can say that x plus x minus 9 plus x has to equal 120 inches, because all of those pieces added together have to be that 10 foot or 120 inches. Now I'm going to combine up like terms, and so I've got x plus x plus x is going to give me 3x minus 9 equals 120. So now I am just solving this thing for x. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides, add 9, and get 3x equals 129. Because those cancel, I will divide by 3, and get x equals 43 inches. Now, the question did not ask me to solve for x. The question asked me to find all 3 pieces. Well, 2 pieces were cut equally. Let's write that in green. 2 pieces are cut equally. And those we said were x, and we found x to be 43. And then the last piece is 9 inches shorter than the first. And so I've got x minus 9, but I now know x is 43. So 43 minus 9 is going to give me 34 inches. And so my final answer will be 43, 43, and 34. And if you add all those up, you better get back to 120 or 10 feet. Okay, so let's review back at our consecutive integer problems. And so just to fill in our notes, we are using the same chart from 8.2 with the consecutive integers. Normal consecutive integers are going to be x, x plus 1, and x plus 2. Consecutive even or odd integers are going to still be x, but then x plus 2, x plus 4. And so now let's use that to work out a problem. The sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 165. What is the second term? And so I've got a couple of keywords in here. The first one being the sum of. Sum meaning that I'm going to add them. And then the second key phrase is going to be 3 consecutive odd integers or odd terms. So I've got 1, 2, 3 of them, and then those 3 consecutive odd integers are going to be x, x plus 2, and x plus 4. Because they're odd, I'm going to use that column. And then it told me that I'm going to sum all those together or add them all together. And that has to be is 165. So that means equals 165. Now the question says, what is the second term? So eventually when I solve for x, I'm going to then plug x in right here because the answer to the question is, what is the second term? And so first thing I'm going to do is just work on solving for x. So to solve for x, I'm going to combine up like terms. I've got 1x plus 2x plus 3x. Sorry, 1x plus 1x plus 1x is going to give me 3x's. And then 2 plus 4 is going to give me 6 equals 165. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides and get 3x equals 162. Divide by 3, divide by 3. And then my final answer will be x equals 54. Now, a lot of students will type that in as their answer. However, 54 is the first term. It's x. And the question said, what is the second term? Not to find the first term. So if 54 is the first term, then, oh, my math is off here. This should be, let me correct that, minus 6 should give me 159 equals 3x, and then divide by 3, just give me 53. Correct that. So that still, though, is the first term. And they've asked me for what is the second term. And so the second term is going to be 1 away from 53. And so x equals 55 is going to be the final answer for that question that I would type in. We're going to skip number 2. I took it out of the homework anyway. I just haven't removed it from the notes. And so here's our last example. Also going to skip this one because I have a video on that already. All right, so the next one. Through the year 2010, the state of California had 21 more electoral votes for president than the state of Texas. If the total electoral votes for these two states was 89, find the number of electoral votes for each state. Okay, so I'm going to have two variables. I have the total votes for California and the total votes for Texas. Now, it says that the state of California had 21 more for president than the state of Texas. If the total electoral votes of these two states was 89, find the number. So the first thing I've got is that this first sentence right here says that California had 20 more than Texas. Well, 21 more than is going to be addition. So I've got that that California is 21 more than Texas. And so California is 21 more than Texas. And then, of course, Texas is just Texas. Now, I need to relate those two with this next sentence that says, if the total votes for these two states was 89, then find the number for each. So that means if I were to add California's votes and Texas votes together, I would get out 89 total. And so I can use that down here to say that 21 plus T, that's California, and then T, Texas, has to be equal to 89. And so now I'm going to combine like terms. 1T plus 1T is going to give me 2T plus 21 equals 89. I'm going to subtract 21 from both sides. Those will cancel, and I'll be left with 2T equals 68. Divide by 2. And get Texas, or T, equals 34 votes. Now, I want to know both of them, and so if Texas was 34 votes, it said that California got 21 more than Texas. So 21 plus Texas, which was 34. California then got 46. Nope, my math is off again. 55 votes. And so that would be the answer to both of those, California's and Texas's electoral votes. And then we're going to skip that last one on this page.